Welcome back to another episode of New Teacher Talk. We discuss the most common challenges that early career educators experience and find answers. Our discussion today, like other episodes, supports new teachers, whether working in a rural, suburban, or urban setting. We are so glad you're here today. In this episode, we are going to talk about the value of finding mentors that help you grow and succeed. But before we introduce our special guests today, let us do two quick introductions of our own. I'm Dr. Anna, one of the co-founders of this podcast channel. I'm also an early childhood generalist who mentors educators on their journey toward national board certification.
And I'm Dr. Beth. My work in education includes being a high school band director, mentor, and induction coordinator. Dr. Ann and I are excited to have several guests joining us today on this episode, Shelby Green and James Scheffers. Shelby is a 7th and 8th grade special education math and history teacher in the Springfield, Illinois public schools. For several reasons, we are excited to tell Shelby's story as a professional educator. First, she came to teaching as a second career after earning her undergraduate degree in environmental studies and two graduate degrees in public health and public administration. Secondly, she has quickly become a teacher leader by being part of the Golden Apple Accelerators in 2023 and a Teach Plus Illinois Affinity Group facilitator in 2023 to 2024. Third and finally, Shelby attributes much of her success to the mentors who have guided her along the way. We're also excited to have with us today James Scheffers. He is a district mentor with the Springfield Public Schools. James is also a veteran classroom teacher, now in his 16th year of teaching and his second year in the district mentor role. So welcome, Shelby. Welcome, James. In our episode today, we want to lean into Shelby's pathway to the classroom and the role her mentors have played and why that has been so helpful to her. So welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I'll start with Shelby.
Thank you for such an amazing introduction. I'm Shelby Green Owusu, and my current titles are Mommy, Mrs. O, Daughter, Sister, and Affinity Group Facilitator. I teach departmental special education for middle schoolers. Originally from Chicago, I've been calling Springfield, Illinois home for the past 11 years. Through Teach Plus, I became an affinity group facilitator, which deepened my understanding of my purpose and my why as an educator, and it also equipped me with tools to lead with compassion and self-awareness. In all honesty, they should be listed as a package deal.
I love it. I love it so much because I've talked with a lot of folks that have been through the Golden Apple program. It's given them opportunities to just have this sense of belief in themselves. And I don't know what kind of magic wand they wave over all of the participants. But once they've left that program, there's a sense of, I can do this. There's a sense of such self-worth and confidence that I can make a difference out here in the world with my students. So all hail to Golden Apple. Absolutely.
I love Golden Apple so much. I recommended one of my coworkers to do the program, and she's currently in it right now. So she looks forward to being a teacher next year. And then I'm also recommending someone else. So hopefully that works out for them. So yeah.
Oh, this is exciting. It's so exciting. And I work with some teachers in CPS, and they are always identifying some of their parapros who just have the skills and the gift. So I think that this could be a great way for them to be able to have a fast track to that degree and have them making even more impact within their district.
Well, welcome, Shelby. Tell us a little bit about yourself, James, and your role as a mentor coordinator.
I'm not a mom. However, I am a dad of two. That's always my favorite title as well. But in my role here as a district mentor, Shelby and I have just worked very closely on her needs, things that I can bring back to my team to improve what mentoring looks like for other educators. And I just look forward to letting others know what process is and how it works and if we can improve it.
Thanks so much, James. We appreciate hearing that because it's always about looking at what we're doing, reflecting, and improving upon our practices. So I'd like to ask Shelby to share with our audience your non-traditional pathway to becoming a middle school teacher and how mentoring has played a role in your success as a professional educator.
I come from a family of educators, daycare workers, classroom teachers, and nurturers. Despite their influence, I didn't see myself following in their footsteps. Growing up, I focused on the stress and challenges they faced rather than the joy and fulfillment their work brought them. After high school, I became a first-generation college graduate, earning a degree in environmental studies. But when I graduated, I found myself uncertain, unsure of what I wanted to do or who I wanted to be. Tiffany Burris, a principal, my sorority sister, and mentor, suggested I try substitute teaching. I started in 2020 as a permanent substitute, teaching a science class full-time without certification. It was a challenging yet eye-opening experience. During this time, I met James Scheffers, a special education teacher who later became a district mentor. His support became instrumental in shaping my path. Then comes along 2020, the year of change. The pandemic shifted education to a virtual setting, and it was during this transition that I discovered my calling to be a full-time teacher. Fast forward to 2021, with a newborn at home, I was determined to pursue teaching certification. That's when I discovered the Golden Apple Accelerator Program, a 15-month, fully virtual certification program with free tuition. I felt like I had hit the jackpot. With determination, I applied, gathering recommendation letters and transcripts. Once accepted, the real work began. Over the next 15 months, I juggled roles as a student teacher, mom, wife, and learner while completing my special education certification at Blackburn College. During this journey, I had incredible mentors, Shalonda Gaines from Golden Apple and Abby Bretts from my school. Their guidance combined with the support of my family and colleagues made all the difference. Today, I am proud to say I've come full circle. I'm in my second year of teaching at the same school where our student taught. Every day, I get to do what I love with amazing people. It doesn't feel like a job. It feels like coming home.
Wow, Shelby, that just grabs my heartstrings because you had in your early experiences watching your family in education, you didn't always see from that outside place the joy that you get from working with young people. And once you had that opportunity, the family business kicked in for you, which is pretty exciting.
Absolutely.
I am certain that your family is so, so proud of you. James, how did you influence Shelby to become an educator, to go from being a substitute to saying, I want to do this every day of my life?
I think the best part was I didn't. She already knew in her heart what she wanted to do. And so I just continued to push her to follow what she already knew. And sometimes that's all it takes is just having that person check in on you. Again, at Washington Middle School is where we first met. I had no idea that our paths would cross again, but they did. And so things I think are just meant to happen sometimes happen. And so being able just to check in on her during her science days at Washington Middle School has helped blossom the relationship that we have that sometimes can be very sarcastic if you don't understand us, or it may look a different way. But once you get to know the dynamics of our relationship, you will see that it's nothing but the best.
And so often we can recognize things within ourselves, but it's that imposter syndrome. You're not sure that you can really carry that out in the real world and among other people and really be believed. But when you have that person that believes in you, that sees you as you are and just nurtures that, that's so impactful to one's professional and personal growth.
I would like to circle back on something you said, Shelby, about Golden Apple, your work with Golden Apple and the Teach Plus affinity groups. I know you've been a facilitator there. Our listeners are new teachers like yourself, so they may not know much about Golden Apple and Teach Plus. So, might you describe for our listeners your experiences and how that influenced your work with students as well as your professional development?
Golden Apple definitely transformed my career path. They gave me the tools that I needed to pivot and pursue my passion for teaching while also making it accessible, right? We live in a time where we need things to be accessible, especially when we have families and we're trying to do something that changes everything about our daily lives. As well as Teach Plus, being able to experience Teach Plus has offered me the space to reflect and heal and grow as a leader.
In our show notes, Shelby, we will be sure to add information about Golden Apple and Teach Plus so other educators can learn about their good work, and then they can connect what you've just said to what they're able to offer others. And hopefully they can take advantage of similar opportunities that are offered wherever they might be, because our listeners come from all over the United States, not just from Illinois. James, have you had direct work with Golden Apple and Teach Plus yourself?
I have a handful of coworkers who I mentor, but not specifically like Shelby. So this is a unique experience for me as well as we walk through this process together.
Tell us more about that experience with Shelby and why it's so unique.
So I've attended 2 or 3 different mentoring meetings outside of Central Illinois where other districts bring their mentoring teams and we can see what it looks like. And Golden Apple was actually one of those participants. And so I was able to just kind of ask the questions from an outsider's perspective and bring that back into talking with Shelby and about what ways we can continue to push her teaching and maybe lead those resources into other new teachers that come to Franklin and our district.
Thank you.
So I'm going to go on to my next question here, and I'm going to ask, what can districts do to create a culturally affirming school environment? And how does mentoring support this? And James, since you've been a mentor for some time, I'm going to start and ask that question of you.
I think the first step is to acknowledge it, that it needs to happen. Whether it's fully inclusive right now in a district or it's you're starting at the very beginning, starting is key. And obviously, people, this could become a hot topic. And so I think it's important to have anyone and everyone who's willing to be a part of such a movement forward. Curriculum, staff needs the opportunity to be trained, to be heard. We talk about inclusivity, but how inclusive are our practices actually? And so if you sit down and actually boil it down, and I'm not speaking just about my district, but in whole, when we talk, how and what does that look like? And does the group that we think is being heard, are they actually being heard? So bringing those people to the table who maybe are more quiet or of a certain group who maybe are a little more shy or don't want to be in front of the camera, getting their voices heard, and obviously bringing in the community, because community support can move, can break things, can really set the tone of how positive something can be in a school district.
Our communities really are so important and impactful on the work that we can do if we take time to listen to them. So I'm going to pose the same question to Shelby. How do you see districts being able to create that true culturally affirming environment?
Well, agreeing with what James said, opening that doorway to say we're taking the opportunity to listen to people, to hear what they have to say is extremely important. Imagine if we didn't take the time to say, okay, first year teachers and second year teachers, they need support. How can we support them? Then the rate of teachers leaving would be higher. But because our district does such a great job with implementing having mentors, then you have more teachers that are staying, that teacher retention is greater, and it gives teachers the opportunity to have the assistance and the guidance that they need to want to continue to push forward.
The idea of mentoring and having that support and knowing that we can make people feel welcome in our space and that there's a space for everyone in our space goes a long way to building a place where people want to work and people want to contribute to the goals that the organization has.
All voices need to be heard and valued. You know, this topic of being a new teacher and mentoring is so cogent. Our listeners come from rural, suburban, and urban environments. So, my question I would like to ask is really about one piece of advice. If you had to give a salient piece of guidance to new teachers, what would that be? Shelby?
I would definitely say to make sure you take care of yourself first. A lot of the times we spend so much energy focusing on the needs of our students, the needs of our administrators, the needs of our districts, and we don't put ourselves first. So if you make sure you take that time to take care of yourself first, then what you do for yourself will pour into what you do for your students in your building.
Well-being is so important as a teacher, whether you're new to the profession or you've been in the profession a long time. Taking care of ourselves, as you so well stated, Shelby, to pour our energy into others, we must have the energy and take care of ourselves first. I really like that adage. Appreciate you sharing that. James, what about you? If you had one piece of advice to give to new teachers to help them be successful, what would that be?
I'm going to cheat your question and turn it into 3. 1, to be curious. You can take that however you would like, but in the realm of education, if you see something and you don't understand, ask. 1 would be curious. 2 would be ask. So no question doesn't have an answer, but if you don't ask it, you'll never have that answer. And then 3, time management. Please, 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 educators, if you get nothing out of this from me, do not stay at school till 10 o'clock every night. Be prepared for tomorrow and then go home. Then tomorrow, be prepared for the next day and then go home. Because if you live at school, it's not going to turn out any better than if you set yourself a time limit, get your work done, and then go be a human being, please.
I felt like that was
Right.
personal, James.
I love it.
Wow, we ended up with 4 great pieces of advice. We're still waiting on James's response. Well-being, curiosity, ask, and time management. James, would you like to respond to Shelby?
We still have half a semester together, ma'am.
Oh my goodness.
I
Love it.
believe this is the relationship that you were talking about earlier in the podcast, that if we didn't understand, we would think, oh my goodness, these two don't like each other. But they respect, and I love that you have got that rapport, that you can talk with each other in a way that's real. Because too often, mentoring relationships become formulaic. I'm going to ask you this question, and you're going to answer me with something that you think that I want to hear. But your relationship is really real. And that, I think, is the tip that I'm going to share. Bring yourself to your mentoring, whether you're a mentor or a mentee, be your authentic self. So I'm going to ask you if our listeners would like to reach out to you with more questions, for more advice from either of you. How can our listeners reach out to you and connect?
My email is excel.affinity1@gmail.com. That's ACCEL.AFFINITY1@gmail.com.
I will also start with an email, and then if you reach out, we can communicate whatever works best for you. So I'm going to go with jscheffers@sps186.org.
I am certain that some of our listeners are going to hear about your experiences, and especially some of those experiences with Golden Apple and Teach Plus and mentoring in general, in terms of how can I learn more? So we appreciate that so much.
Well, thank you, both of you, for being our guests today. It's been a great conversation. We also want to thank our listeners for joining us. They come from all over the country, and actually, we are heard in over 30 other countries besides the United States. So if you found this episode helpful, share it with a fellow teacher and be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Follow us on our socials. We are on Instagram and Blue Sky at New Teacher Talk. Each week, we will share a helpful resource that you can download and use in your classroom. For example, look for the Tuesday Teacher Resource and also check out our Thursday Thought to keep you motivated. And remember, as a new teacher, we are here to support you.